Hey guys, I've created a Tic Tac Toe game, otherwise known as Naughts Crosses, and I want to go line by line through the code and show you guys how I made it. So I've got the emulator open up over here, and I've got a very simple text view that says Tic Tac Toe, and I've got a button that says Start New Game, which pretty much does exactly as you think. It starts a new game. I've got a grid over here which has got 9 boxes, and I can pretty much go straight ahead and play the actual game and win. And I can click on Start New Game, which creates a new game for me, and I can make or win as well in a vertical grid kind of column, and then I can win horizontally, and then same for this way over here, just like this. And the player points increment as well as the game progresses. If I click back, it takes me to the first screen, and clicking on Start New Game takes me back over to the game where everything's pretty much reset. So how on earth is this built, is the question, right? So I've got over here a main activity. So an activity is basically what you see on the actual screen. Whenever you use any Android app, anything that you're looking at on the screen will be an activity without a doubt. And that my activity has to extend app compat activity or fragment activity. There's quite a few, but it has to extend one of the activities that you get available. App compat activity is a good one to use for kind of backwards compatibility. So then what happens is I basically have to use the onCreate function, which is a lifecycle function where the Android sort of ecosystem operating system, it will essentially fire for us the onCreate function, and it's inside here where I specify which layout it is that I want to essentially use to draw to inflate onto the screen. So let's go over here, and what I've got is a very simple text view and a button that is inside a constraint layout. And with a constraint layout, I can specify the constraints on each view. So this one, you can see that the top of this text view is constrained to the top of the parent, and we actually drag it down to give it a margin of 180. So if I move it slightly up, you can see that it changes to 152. You can see it says 152 just about there. Let's Control Z, and then the exact same thing for the button. We constrain the button to the bottom of the Tic Tac Toe text view. You can see here constraint top to the bottom of this text view, which is over here, and then we can basically constrain the left and the right of this button to either side of the parent. So end to the end of parent, start to the start of parent. Pretty simple. Let's go back over to main activity, and then what I do is I say the variable that I've got over here, the field, this is equal to the find view by ID function that we call, and we pass in the actual ID of the button. So what this function does is it goes to the actual layout, it finds the, not that one, this one, it finds the view, so a button, a text view, a scroll view, a recycle view, all of these different views that you have, they all are views essentially. So this is saying go to the screen and find me the view with the ID of this. So if I keep hold of Command or Control if you're using Windows, and if I click on it, it takes me to the actual button, as you can see over here. Okay, dokie. And then what I say is start new game dot set on click listener, and then inside this code over here, I construct an instance of intent. I pass in the context, which is the activity, and then I specify the actual activity that I want to go to. I then call start activity. Let's go to game activity and see what on earth is going on. So I have got over here 9 different text views, and each one of these views represents a specific box on the grid, 1 to 9. 1 being this, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That was fun counting. Then what I do is I have got also a reference to the game manager. I will get to that in just a second. A start new game button, which is the let's quickly win, which is that button there, and the player points that we see at the top for both X and O. And just like main activity, I've got the onCreate function over here where I specify the actual layout that I want to inflate onto the screen. So let's go over here where I've got this awesome looking grid. Now how did I make it exactly centered and all packed up together like this? Well, it's quite simple. If I just click on the design tab over here, so it gets rid of the XML, and if I just drag and drop 3 buttons, and you can pretty much follow me as I'm doing this. If I then keep hold of Shift and I select all of these buttons so that they are all selected, you'll know that they're all selected because they'll have a blue background over here. And if I right click on one of them and then I say chains, create vertical chain, okay, and then I say the top of this button is constrained to the top of the parent, and the bottom of this last button is constrained to the bottom of the parent. And then what I say is I say this, or these 3 buttons, right click them, I say create a vertical chain and then click on packed, and then that brings them all together. And then what I can do is I can just constrain this to the, oops, let's do that properly. And then the same with this one to that one. Now you've got 3 buttons that are perfectly packed up together, and then you can kind of like position them as you want. You can do this 2 more times so that you've got a total of 9 buttons. Okay, let's just delete those. And the way I made the actual grid is I created essentially a view, an empty view. So just this over here, this view over here. And then what I do is I basically make it constrained so that it's the top of it is to the top of this button, the bottom of it is to the bottom of this button, or text view rather, because these are actually text views, these. And then the right hand side of it is to the right hand side of this, and the left hand side of it is to the left hand side of this one. So it basically puts it directly in between these two, and it puts the top of it over here and the bottom of it over there, and it stretches it out. I then give it a color which is black, so then all of them have got now they're all basically in between all of the buttons. I have uploaded this code on GitHub, so you can just basically copy it from there. Okay, so let's go back over to the game activity. So that's basically the layout. I construct the game manager, so now I've got an instance of game manager that doesn't take anything as a parameter in the constructor. It's pretty much a very simple object. And what we do here is we basically give a reference to all of the different boxes, right? We have 1, 2, all the way to 9. 1 is this one here, 2 is this one, 3 is that one, all the way to 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then I have the same thing for the start new game button and the actual player points. So this is where it all starts. When I click on any one of the text views, any one of these boxes, so like here and here and here, it basically sends a call to the onBoxClicked function, and I pass in the actual view that I've clicked on and a position data class where I specify the actual row and the column. So you can see here that if I click on 1, it sends the position 0, 0. If I click on 2, it sends the position 0, 1. And if I just bring this to the left hand side of that code, you can see that 1 is here and 2 is there. You can see that 1 is 0, 0 and 2 is 0, 1. Right? The last one, 9, is 2, comma 2. So the row is 2 and the column is 2. So if we say the row is 2, so 0, 1, 2, and then the column is 2, 0, 1, 2. And that basically represents each box. So I pass these two variables over to the onBoxClicked function. It's here where I first check, is the text empty for that specific box? If it isn't, then I don't want to play on that box because it's already been played on. If it is empty, then I make the text equal to the game manager dot couldn't player mark. The couldn't player mark is a field which will return a string based on the couldn't player. So if the current player is 1, then it will return an X. If it's 2, then it will return an O. If I come back over here, then what I do is I say game manager.makeMove, and I pass in the actual position. And it's over here where I've got an actual virtual representation of the board, right? So you can see here that I've got an array of arrays. So it's a 2D array. And if I just bring up the emulator, you can see that it pretty much represents the actual board, where the first row is this, and that's the second row, and then that's the third row. The column are these three, and these three, and these three. Okay, so what I say is whenever I make a move, get the position object and go to the state array, the two-dimensional array, and then pull out the row, and then pull out the column, and then make that equal to the current player. So if I click on this center button here, it has actually changed this, because what it does is, because this is row 1 and it's actually column 1 as well, because 0, 1, 0, 1, it will actually pull out this array and it will go to this value, and then it will change it to the current player. Once I've made a change to the virtual board, I want to check if the game has ended. Has anybody won by making this specific move? So let's go to has game ended, and then whoa, a behemoth if-else statement looks like death. But what we want to do is we want to keep it super simple for now, and then we want to see how we can improve not only the code, but how can we improve the actual UI, UX of the application, possibly add animations as well. So I'll be creating more videos to make this a much better application, both code-wise and the user interface. And I've actually drafted a simple function over here that will essentially loop through all of the rows and the columns and the diagonals, and it's irrespective of how big the grid is. But for now, we'll focus on this really weird looking function that's got 1001 if-else statements. So what does this do? Well, essentially it checks that does each row, or does any row, contain the exact same values, right? So it goes through each row first, right? Row 1, row 2, and row 3, and then it checks column 1, column 2, column 3, and then the diagonal from the left and the diagonal from the right, and it checks do these values, are they all the same? So you can see that is 0, 0 equal to the current player, is 0, 1 equal to the current player, is 0, 2 equal to the current player. If that is the case, What we want to do is send back a enum class, which looks like this, which represents the first row, or the second, or the third, and so on and so forth. So if I come back over here, we say if the first row is if someone's won, then we want to return a winning line, which is row 0. And then if the second row has won, then we return row 1, so on and so forth, and then the same with the diagonals. If there's no winner, then we just return null. So if we go back to where this is, we then get the winning line, and then we say, is the winning line null? If it is, we say current player equals 3 minus current player, and I will explain exactly why that's the case. If you are player 1 at the moment, and then you've made your move, so it should be the player 2's turn, you can simply just say 3 minus the current player. So if it's player 1, that it's now player's 2 turn. If the current player is 2, then 3 minus 2 equals 1. So this is how it pretty much alternates between player 1 and 2 by basically executing this very simple statement. Okay. Then what happens is that I return winning line, and oh yeah, just before I continue, this else statement, it says if the winning line is not null, then the current player, we do a when statement on the current player, and if it's player 1, then increase the player 1's points because player 1 won. If it's player 2, then we want to increment the player 2's points, and we increment it by just 1, and plus plus does exactly that. Then we return the winning line. So let's go back over to the game activity. At this point we have got the winning line. We check, is it null? If it's not null, then update the points. And over here we say player 1 points dot text equals player x points, and then we actually go to the game manager player 1 points, and then we also go to the game manager player 2 points for the actual player 2. It's complaining here that I should extract it, but this is one of the things that we are going to be looking to improve as well in terms of code base. So then I do disable boxes. Okay, and this basically means that if a player has one, we don't want them to play anymore. As you can see, I'm clicking here. The game's ended, so we shouldn't be allowing anybody to play anymore. All you can do is start new game. And that's pretty much what the next line does. Inside the onBox click function, we say that the game button, it's now visible for you to click, and then we say at the very end, show the winner. And it's here where we pass in the winning line, and then we say, okay, create a when expression and pass in the winning line, and then we say if it's row 0, then we create a pair where the pair are the winning boxes, okay, the winning boxes, and also the drawable that we want to set as a background. So let's go inside what horizontal line is. It's a horizontal line, of course. It's pretty much a shape which is of type line, and then we give it a color, we give it a width of 4 dp, and yeah, pretty much very simple there. I can then go back over here, and I'm just going to explain this a little bit more. So we basically create two variables. One is called winning boxes, and the other one is called background. You can pretty much do this in Kotlin. It's quite helpful. So what we expect is that the when statement is going to return to us a pair where the first value is winning boxes and the second value is a background. And as you can see, all of these expressions have got a return where we return a pair of the winning boxes. So if it's row 0, then we want to return the boxes 1, 2 and 3. If it's row 1, which is row 2 in English, it's 4, 5 and 6, so on and so forth. If it's diagonal left, then it's 1, 5 and 9, and so on and so forth. But do focus on this though as well, and that's if it's one of the rows, then we return a horizontal line. If it's one of the columns, then we return a vertical line. So let's quickly look at what a vertical line is. It's basically the same as the horizontal line, but we flip it by 90 degrees, and that gives us the vertical line. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same. Let's go back, and for the diagonal, we create a excuse me, we create a diagonal line where we rotate it 45 degrees, and then for the right hand side one, we rotate it 135 degrees, so it gives us it from the right to the left, like this. And then what we do is we say for each of the winning boxes, make the background equal to the actual background that we have chosen. Okay, and the background over here is the variable over here, and that will equal to whichever winning line it is. Okay, so it goes through all of the boxes and it gives it it applies the background, and that's essentially how we get this line. We say, okay, row 1, 1, 2 and 3, those are the boxes. Row 0, sorry, rather. Row 0, boxes 1, 2 and 3, those are our winning boxes, and the background is going to be the horizontal one. And that's pretty much how show winner works. When I click on start new game though, so let's see how start new game works. When I click on start new game, I say start new game, make it invisible now, make it gone because we have started a new game. I then say game manager.reset, and the reason why is because we've actually changed the values of the actual grid, so we want to reset them to how they were at the very beginning with the default values of 0. Okay, and then then what we say is the current player is back to 1. Okay, it's back to 1, which resets it. And then we say reset boxes. So the reason why we do this is because the boxes will have either X or O as text. We will also have on some of them the background, so we make them all null, and also we disabled them, so we basically re-enable them so that we can continue with the game. So that's pretty much it for this specific tutorial on how to create a Tic Tac Toe game. Please do add a comment if you like this video. Please subscribe. Send me a message if you need any help. I will upload, as I mentioned, a link to the GitHub project of this code. There is one thing that's missing in this game, and that's how we should be able to actually reset the game. So if I draw like this, there's no reset option. And what I want to do is in a separate video, I want to add that function in and start to make the game look better, but then also be able to improve the code, because as you've seen, it's not the best. We can make a lot of improvements. So again, thank you for watching. Subscribe if you think I am a worthwhile watch, and give a thumbs up, and I'll catch you in the next video.